City Council on Tuesday, August the 21st at 7 p.m. Please rise for the invocation given by Councilwoman Sarah Lucido. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, as the children of Eastpointe begin school this week, let us all be extra careful as we drive through our city, making sure that all of them get to the classroom safely. Please guide the teachers that we entrust with educating them. Children are our greatest blessing, and we thank them for all of them, and please give them the skills and opportunity to become the next great doctor, teacher, mechanic, or whatever they choose to be. Let their choices only be limited to as far as they can dream. It is in your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Here.
Councilmember Lucido.
Here.
Councilmember Kleinfeld.
Here.
Councilmember Owens.
Here.
Mayor Pixley.
Here. We'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
We have move and support.
I think I think we had one change, no closed session, I believe.
That is correct.
So if we could amend the motion to get rid of the closed session agenda item.
I will make that my motion.
And you will support that? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld.
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido.
Yes.
Councilmember Owens.
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
With that, we'll move to the first hearing of the public. Does anyone wish to be heard? Does anyone wish to be heard? Mr. Creech?
Madam Mayor, Council, Harvey Creech, resident of East Detroit. I was privileged, I guess, to go to the school opening here last week. It was quite the scene. It rained, and they brought them all inside, and they sort of corralled me anyways, and I got appointed to helping the bounce tank, and that worked out pretty good with the kids going in more in direction than out of direction. But I got a chance to talk to the superintendent and maintenance, and I'm hoping down the road that a lot of things get done before then, because we need a lot of work, and they got a lot of work to do in the next week. And Sarah, I'm with you. I tell you what, I'm looking forward to the kids going back to school and putting them in a right direction. And hopefully this year things will go a little bit different maybe than they have. And the opportunity of meeting the two gentlemen for the safety, I give them both a 50-50 chance. There are a lot of, I didn't get a chance to talk to them that long, but there's a lot of things this city could use. And I'm hoping somewhere along the line that we can all get together too. And as I said before, my biggest point right now is to get this city on track to where the schools, the city, the recreation, the police, the fire, put this city, make it one big organization that can work again. Going back, as I said before too, we used to have ox rolls. We used to have a lot of things in this city. I can remember back, I said the same difference about it. I'd get up in the morning, I got kicked out of the house. Go to the park, go do something. As I said, and I'm here now, as I said, please, if you can take this any way you want it. We lost our swimming pool. We had to give it up for finances. We had to give up our basketball courts because of obvious reasons. Please, let's don't give up anymore. Let's bring back. Bring back to the parks. Bring back to the cities. Bring back everything we used to have before, too. Sizzling nights and everything that goes together. When you look at some of these other cities, typical example, I'm going to throw this out there, and I hope everybody grabs it real quick. Every Wednesday night, I go to Bible study. I go down Jefferson. Look at Memorial Park. They have an amphitheater. They draw anywhere from 300 to 700 people every Wednesday night because it's there. The public wants it. The public needs it. We need to bring what we can in our finances, in our budget. We need to bring all these people and everything.
You have 30 seconds.
Thank you. As I said, let's bring the schools, please. Helpfully, I said this the same. Maybe there's shuffleboard or something. I want to get a commitment between the cities and bring it together. So people can talk. This is what we need. People and neighbors and kids and everything. Bring it back together. That's what we really need. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else wish to be heard? Seeing none, the first hearing of the public is closed. Move on to approval of the minutes. And the first and only item is the regular meeting of last week, August 14th, 2018. We have a motion, please.
Sure, Madam Mayor, I'll motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of August 14th, 2018.
Support. Move and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
No scheduled hearings, no unfinished business for tonight. We move on to reports from administration, and we'll start with our acting city manager, interim city manager, I'm sorry. Mr. Ryan Cotton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Pixley, members of the City Council. I just have a couple of status reports and then some tips. The first is about the Public Safety Director that was mentioned earlier by Mr. Creech. That process began today with a tour of the Fire Department, Police Department, the community tour, the open house here, opportunity to meet the City Council, the community. It'll conclude tomorrow with interviews with a formal group involving Assistant City Manager Randy Altimus and Finance Director Blum and myself, as well as the entire leadership team. I say it concludes, but it really doesn't conclude because we have a lot of feedback forms that we're getting from the department, from people in the community, and we will analyze that. We'll look at what other reference checks we need to look into, and then make a who is our best choice for the finalist decision. I say we, but ultimately it comes down to me under what you expect out of the terms of my role in the charter. So, but having said that, I want to hasten to say it's really not about me. It's about a process that is considered, I think, to meet best HR standards, to be fair and appropriate for all concerned, and to also find the best fit for our whole team. And that's important because the team will be here for a long, long time, and we want this candidate to be here for a long, long time, and that fit is essential. So just wanted to give you some feedback on that. I also have, thanks to Randy and the Civil Service Commission who helped create the list, and they were informed by Assessment Center process held on August 2nd, where we had 4 experts from public safety departments that ranked the candidates after a 5-part five different scenarios. So we're nearing the end of that process. The city manager search process, I think you all know about September 10th. The application deadline came, and James Vetrano and I spoke, and we concur on the best candidates that he's getting Google searches done on now, and those 200 different searches per candidate, in a way that will then inform him as to who would be best to Skype, and then bring you a book of however many number are remaining after that process. And I think a total of 52 applications is what I recall came in by the deadline. Wanted to announce that the dog park is getting some improvements. There's been some agility equipment that's been fundraised, a total of $7,000 worth. I see some of you might know about this. And Mary Van Haren wanted me to share with you that Rare is receiving the equipment tomorrow. So that will be for a variety of hurdles, tunnels, other play equipment. So the dog park is going to get some improvements. I'm ready to move to Cotton's top 10 2-minute tips, and this time it's council manager email etiquette. Next slide. So basically my message is that emails should change depending on the audience. And the point is to reduce lack of communication or LOCO. So if it's related to the agenda, policies, personnel, consultants, or litigation, I think the process, in my view, could be a little bit different depending, and for maximum benefit, next slide. For agenda, we've already talked about how it's great to get the information over the weekend, which is happening, and that's very helpful for our Mondays, making sure you get what you need. It's great to send to the department head who performed the work and carbon copy the entire council and me. That way everyone on this team knows what's going on. That's ideal. If it doesn't happen that way, no problem. We'll make sure everyone knows what the answer is eventually. Next. If you're looking at just a piece of information, how many fires were there last year or whatever, you can send it directly to the department head. It's good to copy the city manager, though, because I might learn something, too. Or I might have something to add to what the department head said, and I say I, but it doesn't say interim there. I'm really talking about whoever is the city manager. Next. Sometimes there's policy changes, very good ideas. We have a bunch of good ideas I've heard in my tours and other conversations with you. So that's that. If you don't mention it during the reports on, at the end of the here, mayor and/or council reports, and want something on the agenda, you can always send it to me. It's always helpful to copy everybody, so everyone knows and can be thinking as well. Next. If it's a consultant, that can get expensive depending on which consultant and which project, and it varies. So there's no one fast rule. So a good way to avoid any confusion or expense is to send it to the department head first. They might know the answer. Carbon copy me. I might know the answer. You might want to say in the email, hey, if you don't know, or if you want more opinions than ours, which is perfectly fine, you might want to tell us, please forward this to the consultant, and that way there's at least some management of their time. Next. Litigation, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, but I think if it's anything revolving litigation, it should go directly to you. Some of this is attorney-client privileged, and that ensures that will be the case. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's okay to copy all the council members and the city manager, in which case we all get the answers as well from you. Next. So it's tempting in some communities to direct staff. In most communities, you might see someone on the street doing a job or not doing a job, and that's under most communities' charters, under the council manager form of government, not the ideal situation. So what is a good alternative? Well, you can be as directive as you want to be to your city manager. That's your prerogative. That's what we get paid for, and that's what we need to do a better job. Understanding that, if it's related to a policy matter, that means it exceeds any single person's authority. So it would need to go onto an agenda and get the sense of the entire council. If it relates to a personnel matter, well, then there's usually a process involved. And any one person's view as to what should happen in a personnel matter under the charter is not a good thing. It's rather directed through the city manager, through the Civil Service Commission, through processes that are intended to be based on merit and not be based on political matters. If it's related to an administrative matter, well, we can forward you any suggestions, any and all suggestions to the relevant department head for their professional judgment. And if it's me, I often defer to that department head because they have a lot of knowledge before, during, and after that suggestion as to how best to incorporate it into the level of services. Next. So that concludes tonight's, and next time we're going to talk about double loop learning. Thank you.
Any questions for the city manager? All right, let's move on to our finance director, Mr. Blum.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. I have nothing additional tonight, but if you have any questions.
Anyone? All right, let's move on to the city attorney.
Good evening, members of council. I have nothing further to add this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone? Whoa.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to new business. We'll start with appointments to the Parks Commission. This is a mayor appointment with council approval. We have a number of people, I believe, in the audience that have applied to be a commissioner. So anyone who wants to say a few words, I'd like you to stand, if you could, at least to introduce yourself. Jeff, do you want to stand maybe and say a few words since you've already been up here to the audience?
My name is Jeff Schernick, and the neighborhood knows me as Mr. Z. I work.
Can you speak directly into the microphone?
My name is Jeff Schernick, and the neighborhood knows me as Mr. Z. I work, and I'm alumni of the local high school, and I work for the local high school. The reason I want to get involved with the Parks and Rec is I've been coaching over 35 plus years, and started my career in the Bellevue Dads Club, gone all the way from there all the way up to the high school level and coaching. And when I drive by during the summertime when I'm off from the school, I do see the parks and I see a lot of things, and I miss some of the activities that we used to have, like the ox roast and other things. And when I drive down Kennedy Park and see that empty baseball field just sitting there, you know, for example, I've already talked to the high school about a few ideas where we could even bring back homecoming and create a different event. So I guess I want to be involved with the Parks and Recs just to try to help develop, get those parks used again for any type of event, sports or something else. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Sir, if you'd come forward and state your name.
Good evening, Mayor Pixley, Council. My name is Gary Sasek. I've lived in the city of Eastpointe since 1951. I currently reside at 23796 Roxanna Avenue. In my younger years, when I had children growing up, I was involved with the PTO. I coached and was a board member of AYSO Soccer. I taught special education for 27 and a half years with the Macomb Intermediate School District, and I retired from that district as an administrator after another 9.5 years. This is just my way of hopefully giving back a little bit to the community that I've lived in all my life, and that's why I volunteered to be on this commission. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And, sir?
Good evening. My name is Bob Barker. I'm a resident of Eastpointe. I was in the Marine Corps. I'm a disabled vet. Myself and my friend, helped design and install the disc golf course that's at Spindler right now. We saw that park as an opportunity. We kind of just used it, and it's taken it from the amount of people that are there all day from where it was to where it is now is unbelievable. We only go there maybe once a week to check it out, but we'd like to definitely, like, I used to be an athletic director also, and we definitely want to try to improve these parks and get these kids back out here. You know, I got 2 kids now, and all they want to do is play video games. Well, that's garbage. I hate that. So that's one of the reasons I want to be on it. Now I got kids. I want to make sure that they're involved and they've got a place to go play where I don't have to be worried about them if they go off a couple 100 yards or whatever. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, Justin Nellis, resident of Eastpointe. Last we talked, I was here with the helping to get the installation of the course in, and I want to thank you guys for forwarding that. And I just also like to be a part of just the Parks and Rec, because I think we got some good ideas and really could really help move forward on any projects that you guys are thinking, and also give us our insight on what we think we could do. And yeah, I'm all about Eastpointe, so I live here, I love it, and yeah, we're having a good time at Spindler, so thanks again.
We love to hear those kind of words.
Yeah.
It's
All
a
right.
good place to be.
All right, and I know there's some other people. Are you also?
My name is Crystal Rucker, and I'm a resident
I'm
of
sorry,
Eastpointe.
your name again?
Crystal Rucker. I'm a resident of Eastpointe for the last close to 3 years. I live south of 10 Mile and west of Gratiot, and we really don't have any park facilities over there. I had a small dog, and I wanted to take my dog to a park, and I called, and they were like, well, no, we don't have anything on that side. So they recommended a school that's not too far from me, but there was nothing for the residents really as far as recreation is concerned. Kids play basketball in the street. I heard the gentleman say basketball, you know, that you can't play basketball, or, you know, why we don't play basketball. I think it's because there's no basketball courts. But in any event, I'm interested in being involved in the community, so I thought this would be a good way. And like I said, there's a need on that side of town. Thank you. I enjoy Eastpointe too.
Thank you. And someone else? Anyone else? Anyone else for the Parks Commission? All right, Council. I think that anyone who comes forward tonight should be heard Betty Banks, Betty Bishop, did come up to me earlier, about 5:30, 5:45, and she couldn't make it because she had a meeting. But she's also on beautification. So I told her that there were a lot of people that this was the first time they had ever applied for a commission, that I'd like to see them come forward. So we have openings for 7. So I guess what I'd like to do is to appoint Justin, Gary, Crystal, Bob Barker, and Jeff, who are all here tonight. And then also Gloria Gorko, who had her papers in fairly early, and that would be 6. And then the next one, unless I hear something different, would be Patricia Colaforti, who I don't know. Does anyone know her?
I was thinking about, Madam Mayor, Mr. Johnson. He ran for city council when I ran, and his whole platform was doing things in the parks.
Mm-hmm.
And when this came about and this opened up, when I say he rang my phone trying to be on this commission, and it was very important to him, I think he has he's at work right now, but I had to call Lori and try to find his application. He was very, really wanted to be a part of it, so. And like I said, when he ran for city council, that was one of his points, was to do something with the parks and to start something with the kids. So for him to still want to be a part of something, even if, he didn't win an election, speaks volumes that he still want to be a part of the community. So that's just.
Any comments, Council? Do you know any of these other people that are on this list?
Not really.
I know that Randy, that was one of the things he wanted to do, was to be active and to set up things in the parks. And he had worked with a baseball league or some type of a league with kids. So I have no problem with putting Randy on.
And from what I understand, he was a big-time football player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And well, his son goes to Ohio State or something, doesn't he? One of those other schools.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I like Mr. Johnson. I think that's a good idea. I also really like Betty Bishop. I know that we're limited to 7. And I like putting new faces on commissions, but I know that she's also been on for years. And
On beautification, she's been on for 10 years.
yeah, so I hate to think she can't get involved.
I told her she could still come to all the meetings.
Yes.
There is no reason why no one can't go to a meeting. Because the more the better, the more ideas you have, the better you're able to resolve them. I can tell you one thing, I know that Mr. Creech will be at every meeting, so along with these people, then we would also have the representative from RARE, which would be Dan Hogan, and there should be a representative from J.J. Mish. Mary would be there as well, and Sarah as the liaison. So that's a good group of people to get a lot of ideas and to work with it. So I think we'd just go in order with the terms of office, and I can straighten Gloria.
Are the names in order, chronological
Right.
order?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So again, then that would be Justin Nellis, Gary Sasek, Crystal Rucker, Bob Barker, Jeff Ziernig, Pat Kolarafi, Gloria, and Randy Johnson.
That's 8, right?
8.
We only need 7.
I think it
What was
was
the second?
Yeah, without,
Ms.
Uh,
Flora.
yeah.
All right. And we just put them in order of the number 7. The other thing is that we have on our various commissions, we have a number of people that aren't attending. And we do have a policy, I believe it says, if you've missed 2 meetings, 3 meetings. So we probably really need to update our commissions and who's attending and who's not attending.
I wasn't sure, is that in our ordinances then?
It is in something related to commissions. And this was, we did this a long time ago because we had a number of commissions and you couldn't appoint somebody to a position until their term of office was up, and yet they weren't coming to the meetings. So you might have somebody come 1 or 2 meetings and then they never show up at another meeting. And you can't do very much with just a few people. So particularly, I think it related to beautification.
I think there's only one person that hasn't been there, probably in the last, 3.
So, and it's
Everyone else been there 2 out of
important,
3 at least.
as I was telling Betty tonight, it's important that we have the minutes. And the minutes should be documented, and Linda should have a copy, and usually we used to keep them in a book out there, so.
Sure.
So we need to get those minutes as well. All right, so council, you have the names, and I would just need a motion to approve.
So were the names on here were in order, or are we going in order of how you
With
stated
how
it?
I said.
Okay. Well,
Oh.
so moved. Did you need the
We clarify with just saying the name.
motion?
Yeah, do we have 8 or 7?
7.
Who's the, because I had
We took Gloria off.
I thought we took
Oh, you do
Patricia
have all
off.
the names? Oh, yeah.
Gloria.
Get rid of, no, this one.
Patricia.
I'm sorry, Pat.
Patricia,
Mhm.
okay, just want to make sure.
Do you want to, if that's what the mayor wants us to, I could do the motion if that's correct, the way I wrote them in.
And Rich has them written down, too.
Gloria,
Justin,
Gary,
Gary, Crystal, Bob,
Jeff.
Jeff, RJ, Gloria.
Yeah.
Bob, Crystal,
And then this
and
one.
Randy, and Gloria.
Oh, okay.
18 to 19, 18 to 20, 18 to
Okay, you took one off, right?
Okay.
Patricia's not on there, is she?
Justin, Gary,
Yeah, I took Patricia Colarafi off.
Crystal, Bob, Jeff, Gloria, and Randy. We get one extra?
Oh, it's 3 meetings in a row, by the way.
Oh, okay.
1 to 3 meetings.
Justin, Gloria, Gary, Jeff, Bob, Crystal, and Randy, that's 7,
By the city.
Okay,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
give them your names.
Oh, if she was looking at that, that's just written
Mhm.
twice. I can make the motion if we're prepared.
Just make sure that last date is to 2021, from what it says on the, it says 18 to 18 on that very last line. Should just be 18 to 21
Oh, you mean the
in the
motion?
proposed motion.
Because we have
Oh,
different.
I didn't even know
we
there
have
was a
different
proposed
terms-
motion.
Different terms
Oh.
for everyone.
Sorry, I'm not on the same
Oh,
page.
that's
We're not-
funny. I was
Literally.
just right,
He
making
was
it
making
up.
his own.
Yeah.
Oh, you were just,
on that page.
we're literally not on the same page?
Okay. I will move to appoint Justin Nellis, Gloria Gorko, and Gary Sasek to the Parks Commission with terms to expire August 1st.
July 31st.
July 31st, 2019. I'm just going to go off this, not the proposed one. As well as Jeff Schernig and Bob Barker with terms to expire July 31st, 2020, and Crystal Rucker and Randy Johnson with terms to expire 2021.
Support?
Move support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
So to all of you sitting in the audience, even though the term says 2019, that's just the initial appointment, and you can always ask to be reappointed at that time before the term is up. And anybody that wants to attend the meeting can attend the meeting, and we don't know when that's going to happen yet, but probably Mary Van Haren will contact you and see what the majority of the group wants or is able to attend. Correct. Is that what her plan is? Mr. Cotton?
Correct.
Okay. All right, let's move on to item B, is the potential amendments to the fireworks ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce to you an individual who has spent much of her summer here with the city as doing administrative projects, mainly human resource related. Her name is Weiwei Cap. I first met Weiwei on the campus of Hope College, where I taught a class, state and local government, and she excelled. When I announced to the class that you had asked me to come here, she asked me afterwards if she could also have some experience here. So I was glad for that help. I think I can speak for the administrative team, the leadership team, to say that she's been a pleasure to work with, and she's here tonight to provide you information related to one of her projects that was not human resource related. And it came to me when on July 10th we heard from a resident comparing our fireworks ordinance to Warren's. And I was curious, and I asked Weiwei to research it, and this is the product of her research you're going to hear tonight. And whether you want to go any further was up to probably you and the city attorney, but at least you'll hear about the comparison. With that, Weiwei.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. As was mentioned, I'm here in response to some concerns raised by a resident at the City Council meeting on July 10th regarding Eastpointe's fireworks ordinance. The resident asked that Eastpointe adopt the City of Warren's fireworks ordinance, particularly in prohibiting fireworks after 11 p.m. and near buildings and landscapes. After reviewing both Warren and Eastpointe's ordinances, I have revised Eastpointe's ordinance in a way that I feel will benefit the public, with input from the leadership team, including the police and fire departments. While the resident claimed that Warren prohibited fireworks after 11 p.m., I found that both Warren and Eastpointe prohibit the use of fireworks between midnight and 8 a.m. on the day of, the day preceding, and the day following a national holiday, or between 1 a.m. and 8 a.m. on New Year's Day. Both cities prohibit fireworks on any other day and are in compliance with the Michigan Fireworks Safety Act. However, Warren's ordinance regarding the prohibition was more clearly worded, and so I've taken that language and incorporated it into Eastpointe's ordinance. That being said, the guidelines of the prohibition have not been changed in any substantial way. However, I have made two more significant changes to Eastpointe's ordinance, using Warren as an example. One was the addition of a section regarding public places, and the other was a detailed section on general restrictions. Neither of those were previously included in Eastpointe's ordinance. And by explicitly stating these regulations, it will allow the local police to more easily handle calls and prosecute under local ordinances. To reiterate, I took the section from Warren's prohibition. I took their wording because it was more clear. I added a section on not allowing fireworks to be ignited on public property, and I added a section that had an extensive list of general restrictions or regulations that are in place even on the day of, the day preceding, and the day following a national holiday. Thank you for your time. I now ask that you consider whether we should move forward with this. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. All right, council. First of all, Mr. Albright,
Yes, Madam Mayor.
the state law, does that have to be quoted exactly in our ordinance?
It does not. The city has adopted the state law. The state law does prohibit the discharge of fireworks on public property, including school property, church property, or the property of another person without the organization or person's express permission to use those fireworks. But I do like the idea of setting that language specifically in our ordinance. I think it makes it clear, and it's located in one spot as opposed to somebody perhaps looking at our ordinance, then also having to resort to a state statute to see that that kind of conduct is prohibited.
So council, what was your comments?
Well, if Rich agrees, it makes it more clear and he thinks that can be useful. I feel like Wayway did all the work for you, so you could just put it into
I want to commend her on
ordinance
that.
form.
Job well done.
Okay, so I did color. So anything that was crossed out was originally in the ordinance, and I took it out. Anything that's in green is stuff that I added, and the things that are in red are things that I didn't. That should definitely have someone else look at.
We appreciate that. It was easy to read, to understand what changes you were proposing, so. Yeah, I have no objection to considering this if council wishes to.
What I can do, Madam Mayor, members of council, I can put this in further ordinance form. And there are a couple of just minor things I'd like to also change on there. So with the council's approval, I can certainly make those changes as well and have something in front of the council here in the next couple of meetings. But again, I'd like to commend Wayway. Did a great job on that.
All right, thank you. Great job.
Wayway's last day is tomorrow, and she will be transferring to University of Michigan, so she'll be closer to us from now on.
Congratulations, great school. Even though there's people to my left that don't think so.
People over here do, though. I'm on that side.
All right, let's go on to item C, which is the approval of the request by the Johnson Street contractor to utilize the DPW storage yard. Mr. Cotton, do you want to explain that?
Yes, there's some background to this that Mr. Marucci is familiar with. Mr. Marucci has worked, of course, with our engineering department, our consultant on a lot of road projects and has some background in this. I'd like to introduce him for his report and give us some background and best thoughts on this.
Thank you, Mr. Cotton. You have before you my memo, and we also had a pre-construction meeting today where the topic of the batch plant was quite lengthy and really more informative than I could have imagined. But I have no clue. Someone asked me, do you have any idea what Florence was believing when they put their bid together? I have absolutely no clue if they intended that we would allow or not allow the batch plant to be built. They made an informal request through Carol Apley at the DPW, just asking, hey, do you think this is possible? And they made that 3 weeks ago. She presented it to me, and I said, it's probably going to be a policy matter for at least the city manager and for the council. And up until last Friday, they had not broached it again. But by that time, bids had been prepared, bids had been submitted and opened. So if they took a chance on they were going to use the yard or not, that's strictly up to them. It surely is a benefit to the contractor to have a batch plant close to where they are pouring concrete, regardless of who the contractor is. It's also a benefit to ourselves as well in that the concrete's delivered to the site in a timely manner and placed in a timely manner, especially in hot weather, which we may not be going into right now. So we've done this before. It was done, I'll call it administratively. We think the reason, what I told Mrs. Apley back 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, I said, just have them put it in writing because at least that way we know what they're intending to do. We do not want to get into any situation where there's a misunderstanding between a staff member and the contractor. We want it to be dealt with. There was considerable discussion here last year, and we want to avoid that. Same point in time, just for thought, and it doesn't need to be acted on tonight, is for future projects, I believe I surely know there's a financial benefit for the contractor to have this. It should also be a financial benefit to the city to have this. It's probably too late for that to occur now because bids have been submitted, and we do not want to appear that we are renegotiating the bids that were openly read aloud. We don't want to do that. But however, in the future, we should look at it. At least the informal discussions I've had with Mr. Palucci and Mrs. Apley is we can accommodate it. We've done it in the past, and it's not a big deal if we have one here in the future. And I think we ought to look at that for future projects, and we know we'll be having those. And just for informational purposes, Mr. Pangori checked, and of the, I believe there were 6 bids, Randy. It was either 5 bids or 6. All of the contractors, except for Florence, did not have a batch plant. So it's very unusual that you have to be a certain size, and they actually have 5 batch plants that they move around. One thing I determined or discovered today was I was surprised. It takes about a week and a half to set this up. It's only used for 2 to 3 days, and they move it again. Because I also broached the subject of the city might be willing to listen to somewhat permanent location of a batch plant here if it's financially beneficial. And they said, we don't permanently place any batch plants. We move them from location to location, and though it's a week and a half to set up and 2 days use, that's how we do it. And we don't want a permanent location anyplace.
So it's probably dependent on the amount of cement that they're going to make or use. So it really would have been helpful with doing the Topher project if they had a batch.
It would have been. And we were approached, but we were approached 2 days before the bids were due, and only by one contractor. It was too late to get out an addendum to the bid notification because it would have been correct for us to say, yes, you can place one here, and all the other contractors either didn't have a batch plant or didn't have ways to arrange for one or didn't even ask the question. So they were turned down at that point in time because it would have given them an unfair advantage. But it is beneficial, and this road project is pretty typical. This is a half a mile that will be just short of a half a mile, Johnson. Topher is 0.55 of a mile, so a half a mile is a pretty decent-sized project and pretty typical for Eastpointe.
Otherwise, do they have to bring in the cement by truck?
By truck, and they'll have to truck it here, but this will come from their own plant, which is certified, but it could come from someplace in Detroit. I think the closest ready mix is 8, 9, 10 miles away.
So there's always a chance of interference with traffic and everything else, and when you're pouring cement, it's really probably much more efficient if you can do it in a closer.
Mayor, I can absolutely tell you that because the batch plant that served Topher was in Roseville at their DPW, and I believe that's approximately 12 and a half in Groesbeck. The second day they were pouring, they stopped pouring at 2:30. They said traffic was so heavy they couldn't. The trucks were ready to go, but the trucks couldn't get here, so they shut down at 2:30. So yes, that is absolutely happened to us here on Topher.
So I just had 2 questions then, above and beyond my note that I sent to the city manager over the weekend then, now with your update just now, Joe, and thank you for that info. You said that Florence had asked about 3 weeks ago about it. What was the date? Was it before the bids closed?
It was August 2nd because I wrote a memo then saying, we've been approached informally, and it only went to Mrs. Apley. And it was nothing in writing, no specifics. They just said, you guys, would you entertain such a thought? And it was left at that.
When did I just asked because I guess I was going off about the date. I figured it was close to the date on the memo we have in the packet. When did the bids close?
I remember when
for
the
that
bids. I think it might have been 2 weeks ago today.
Pretty close to that date.
It was on a Tuesday, and I think it might have been 2 weeks ago today.
And then, okay, and then the paperwork that all of the companies, because you're saying that Florence was the only bidder that has a concrete batch plant?
Correct.
It's in the documents that they submitted then? Is that how you knew, or how do you know that?
No, Mr. Pangori asked.
Oh, he just asked all of them?
Correct. Oh, and has been familiar with them on other projects, right. We did not contemplate the establishment of a batch plant here. We were asked that question and answered orally and said, submit something in writing and we'll take a look at it.
Okay. Yeah, I was just asking that because I do want to be most fair to everyone in that bid. And of course, we talked at last meeting how close the numbers were. I just want to make sure we're being fair to everyone in that bid. And we did already, shake hands on Tuesday and on last Tuesday. And then I just want to make sure that, we're known for being fair to everybody that's bidding. That was all.
Mr. Elton was just asked, or just informed me, and I'm glad to know, on July 31st, we opened bids.
Okay.
So it would have been 2 days before they asked us verbally.
Okay, so it was after. Okay, I think I feel the same way then as before.
So do we have a motion?
As you saying that, they probably would have.
Now, we have very late, they did submit something late Friday, and it didn't make the packet, but they've submitted something, Mr. Albright has looked at it. It's written very informally, but I think it's pretty comprehensive in our quick discussion, but they're willing to pay for the location of the plant.
I believe it was $3,000.
It was $3,000.
Joe, I don't believe it had a start and an end date, though.
It didn't, because we don't know the date of the project or the end date. But again, when it shows up, it'll only show up for a week and a half before, 2 days during construction, and they'll disassemble and move to another location to serve someone else.
And there's language in that proposed document that it provides for indemnification and also naming the city as an additional insured.
Mm-hmm. And that is to cover the expense, a small rental fee, but to cover the water and sewer charge. And remember, that was a point of discussion last year.
If they had plans, but they don't.
Yeah.
We believe it'll take about, Mr. Pangori has looked into the operation, about $1,000 worth of water/sewer.
Are those the only costs associated with it, not like any type of electric or?
It's self-powered. They'll be bringing all their supplies and cement in them for themselves, so they'll be using some space.
Okay. I do think in the future it's a good idea to include it in the RFP for the same reasons Councilmember DeMonico stated, but I will motion to approve the request by Florence Cement Company to utilize the DPW storage yard for the placement of a concrete batch plant that will be utilized only for the Johnson Street reconstruction project, contingent upon the company paying the applicable water and sewer invoices.
Support.
Move with support.
What about the, you said they were willing to pay $3,000 to do?
Right. After I heard the support, my recommendation is to eliminate them paying the water and sewer fee and just to pay the $3,000 rental fee. And then the appropriate, we'll monitor their water usage, and that amount will be deducted from the $3,000 and, transferred over to the water and sewer fund.
So if they used $3,000 in water, then they were paying no rental fee?
It'd be paying no rental.
Saying?
Mr. Pangori's estimated they'll use about $1,000.
Okay.
And that, when I say water, I assume sewer as well. As you know, we get charged for both.
Oh, sure.
So it's not $1,000 of water and $1,000 of sewer. It's $1,000 of water/sewer.
You think it should be 3,000?
Yes, they've offered $3,000. I think we should take their offer.
I feel much more comfortable that way.
The
Personally.
Yeah.
Okay. I just, if it goes over that, I don't want, for some reason, us to be collecting less than,
Oh,
I know, I would rather leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
so.
Mr. Blum, what do you think?
Can we word it where as long as the water usage is under, we'll have them pay the $3,000 as long as the water usage is under $3,000?
But if you put it that way, if it goes over, then they're gonna have to stop.
Well, the idea is
Or
maybe we
just pay
can put
more.
in there for them that they have to pay the difference if they go over $3,000
That's,
in water
that's why I'm
usage.
thinking if you just leave it paying the applicable water and sewer invoices.
If Mr. Pangori's estimate of $1,000 for the water is correct, then we would be getting an extra $2,000 for rent. And it seems like that's enough cushion
Okay.
to give us the room. We've done it before where we've accepted $2,000 rent plus water. So that's, the 3,000 is just cleaner.
How about this? I'd be willing to amend to say, ending with contingent upon the company paying $3,000 to the city or the cost of water and sewer usage, whichever is higher.
I'll support
So
that.
we collect 3,000. If we go over for any reason, then we can go back and say, you have to pay these invoices.
Is that okay with you?
Do we also want specific language in the motion about naming the city as an additional insured and also indemnifying the city from harm or loss?
We're actually insured as part of the contract, so they're already covered in that aspect.
So are you going to support his motion?
I did. I supported it.
All right, please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens.
Yes.
Item D is the approval of the sale of 23077 Melrose. We have the motion, please.
Madam Mayor, I motion to approve the sale of 23077 Melrose to Mr. William Benno for $7,175.62, contingent on Mr. Benno securing financing within 20 days and payment of full 2018 summer taxes in the amount of $1,796.89, and authorize the Assistant City Manager to execute all necessary documents related to this contract.
Support.
Moved and supported, please call the roll.
I want to say something on this, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Did we have something in place where, because I know we talked about if something happens like this again, that we was going to have some type of policy and things like that. Have you worked on that already?
We've been working on a draft, but we don't have anything formal because it would have to come to council first for approval. So this property, it's sort of coming before administration, before we get the draft done, but we still have to address it, kind of thing. So the answer is yes, we have something, it just hasn't, it's not ready yet for council to approve.
Okay.
So moved and supported, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
Yes. Our next item is a tax reversion update and discussion, and who's going to lead this?
Okay.
Nominate you.
So there's been a lot of discussion on the different directions we can go in. So the batch of properties that we have that have existing structures on them, residential, the committee was in agreement, it would be a good idea before the winter comes to go through and fix them externally and make sure that we kind of seal them up so that it can be properly winterized so they don't deteriorate more over the winter. So the general feeling was that DPW could go and sort of rip out a lot of the brush and stuff that's not there to clean it up, and that we should prepare a bid for all the houses that need new siding and new roof, and just get all that stuff done before we go into the winter. So in terms of, also in the church that came to us needs a new roof for sure. So the idea was perhaps we can do one large roofing bid, have the church done, and then these, I think it's 14 or 15 homes, depending on inspections, which ones need new roofs. So I think that's the first thing tonight, is getting approval from council to put that bid out there so that we could, potentially be voting on that a month from now. Am I missing?
We also discussed like the siding, repairing or
Yeah.
replacing any siding that was necessary.
Yeah, roofing, siding, and I think any other external necessities that because there might be like a couple windows here and there if some of them get broken out. Does that sound like it's covering what that bid wanted to cover?
Yeah.
So the ultimate goal is to sell these, to fix them up and sell them?
I think that's kind of what we're kind of leaning towards. After walking through the homes, There was only one that was in pretty rough condition. I mean, they all need work, but I think most of them, I think, are definitely salvageable.
And I think part of the idea is even if we scale back and don't end up fixing them all up, we still want to fix the outside of it before handing off to anyone, just to make it look nicer, potentially in that
For the
neighborhood.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we
I thought
have?
the-
Oh, go ahead, Monique. Sorry.
I thought the whole point of the commission was to bring up something, what we were gonna do with as council, what we were gonna do with the property. Because it sounded like it already came to a conclusion that you were gonna fix them up and sell them. I thought we were gonna,
Well, that's kind of what we're here, why we're here today, is like, this would be the first step, is just kind of getting the outsides maintained, and then definitely we're gonna have to, it would be a council decision for us to choose whether or not we're gonna fix them up or sell them.
did you, in the past, was it fixed up or was it just sold to?
It was
Just sold.
That's what I'm saying. So now you're coming up with a whole new idea. I thought that was supposed to go past council first of what we were gonna do with that.
Yeah.
It sounded like you already made the,
Well, no, tonight, the reason we're, like Sarah was saying, talking about it tonight is we didn't want, well, also administration didn't want to go forward putting something together if it's not the direction council wants to go into.
And,
So this
and-
isn't for action tonight, it's really just, should administration go forward with this kind of idea?
or if, are we kind of, I think what I'm feeling here is maybe this year we're piecemealing together our plan, and then because of time, the winter's, only a few months away, but then what we decide on, if it is in separate meetings or one meeting, that would be our plan for next year then, and we'd already be set. I guess I think that's what maybe was being asked just now. That could be the part of the plan. I guess, if you disagree or if anyone disagrees, we could at least disagree on that first part, but I think you wanted to make sure we at least start that because the winter's coming, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I
There's a lot more ideas out there than I think we originally thought.
Okay.
So this was just an idea to get all the houses stable, because we then have to go back and really figure out what we're doing, which probably won't end up happening until next year,
So are you
or
going
at
to
least
come up?
after the winter.
You're going to come up with a motion, a plan at the next council meeting of what you'd like to do to get council approval?
Well, before we do that, I would also like to open it up, like tonight, because we are gonna have another meeting before, no, it won't be until after our next council meeting. It would not be until, because we're not meeting again until after our next council meeting.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be until the following meeting. But tonight, I would like to hear anyone's ideas again, so when we go to our next meeting, any of your guys' ideas again, we can, discuss those again, and, then try to maybe bring something back to council on the next meeting.
why we didn't just do it the regular way and then the ones that are left over, maybe fix those up, the ones that we can't internally sell, like in the past, fix those up. Because if we got people that want to buy it right now, why not get the money right now, and then the ones that are left over?
So you wanna just sell that, like open them up on the market right now?
No, that's not what you did in the past, right? You only did it
We've,
with the,
we've sold it in bulk, which council doesn't want to do anymore. And we have not actually had a process in place since the bulk sales were stopped. Part of it was we didn't have that much quantity of stock. This is the first year we're back to a large bulk of properties. So this really would be the first time that we would be looking at selling the properties individually. And part of the thought was we wanted to get them fixed up. One way or the other, they need to be brought up to code, improve the housing stock in the city, and sell some good homes instead of the ones that tend to be, sold to investors who don't actually fix them up.
well, the people who work for the city of Eastpointe and the school district bought the houses as is.
Oh, so you were
I
talking
guess-
about the employee
yeah, I think-
program?
Yeah,
think I
I'm
see
talking
what-
about, let them buy that, go back to the, since you're trying to really hurry up and get rid of the properties, open that back up, and then with the properties that are left over, don't sell them in bulk, but fix their leftovers up, and then sell them how, I don't know what the plan was, because we didn't talk about it, but
There's a lot of things that we had discussions about around that. Now, we had that policy, but it really wasn't put into practice. Like Randy Blum said, they were sold in bulk. And then last year was really, I think, the first year we went back to trying to do that. But even then, we didn't really have a solid process for it. We sort of, I think that came together really quickly, and you know, there wasn't really open bidding between employees or anything. It just kind of went to the first couple of employees that chimed in for it, and we wanted to get away from that to be more fair. I think the idea, there were some considerations we talked about, like if you sell to an employee and then you require they live there for 3 years, but then if they get fired, then you are firing them and then also evicting them from their house or something like that. There was a lot of things that we were looking at that I think we didn't consider fully up here. So, and I do have a memo prepared that's not like finished, but it has a lot of those considerations. I can share that after this meeting. It's not finished yet, but you can at least see how that discussion progressed.
Why don't you finish it and then send it to council, and then we can review it, not at the next council meeting because you won't be ready, but at the following meeting. You'd probably be ready to discuss your next memo at the next council meeting.
Well, you could probably do a memo before our next council meeting for sure and open it for discussion.
Yeah, you could do that.
Were you looking for any action today, like on the siding and the?
Not action, just,
Okay.
I
Well,
think,
approval to go out to bid.
I
yeah,
guess-
for administration to put it out to bid.
Right, I think right now where we're at too is we just want to make sure everyone's on board, whether we sell them to employees or on the open market or, you know, first of all, trying to prevent more damage from happening. Also, I think the other thing is too, just that we're not gonna sell them as a group, you know, whatever the leftovers are. Like, we're gonna definitely steer away from that. I think we kind of want to make sure everyone's on the same page, that we do want to like finish going forward with, you know, coming up with alternative besides doing the
I'm
group sale.
I'm still concerned that, after reading the article that was in the Detroit Free Press on Sunday, I'm really concerned about just even selling one house that's deficient and is not gonna be really good looking in the neighborhood. Because it just seems like they get sold to somebody else and then they're sold as a group, and you end up with the same problem that was very evident in that newspaper article. So I'd like to just be very careful about, if we could, about who you're selling them to, so that the home is taken care of and it's a plus for the neighborhood, not a negative thing. The fact that you want to make the house so it's going to be appealing within the neighborhood by just fixing it exterior and bringing it up to code, I think is a real step forward.
Do we have the expertise at the DPW to come up with what we need to do on,
Not,
or in the
I
city
don't think
building?
inside these homes, I don't think we have the expertise.
You would have to go out for-
Not to do the work, just to come up with.
I think we're gonna, yeah, I think that's something we've been discussing, is how we're gonna handle the inside. I mean, when it comes to like exterior things, they probably can, you know, pretty obvious if the roof needs to be replaced.
I think you'd have to go out for a bid, though. You
We
wouldn't-
still have to go out for bid for that, yeah.
Yeah, that's not what I'm not trying to ask that, just to come up with a list
Like
of
what
things
needs
that
to
we
be done
would
in
put
each
out to
one.
bid.
If this answers your question, I think we do have to get inspectors in there above and beyond what some of our city personnel can do. And then we probably would have to pay someone like planners to draw the specs for each individual home, because that's a little above what we do as well. So those are the two things that I think internally we're not prepared to handle.
Okay.
So you're going to come forward and put all your thoughts down on paper and send us the memo by when? Next meeting.
I can do that by next week, for sure.
Next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
But then you do want
But tonight,
a
is that what
motion.
you-
Yeah.
I would like to see your plan before we vote. I mean, because it sounds like we're voting on something we still haven't collectively, you know,
Well, I think-
came together, and you saying you got ideas, but we're voting on something that we haven't came together and said, you have already created something, but you're saying it's not created.
Well,
you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you already created something, and we're about to put a bid out for what you created, but it's not collectively as a group.
Oh,
We
it's
didn't
a-
do it together.
Yeah, it's not, I haven't,
We're a long way from going out for a bid.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
this is just, getting bids for we would still have to vote on that later. It's just for collecting numbers, like putting it out there to see what quotes we can get. Because I think the church, for sure, at least some of the feelings between administration and the committee were, the roof's in such bad condition, we'd like to just have at least that fixed before selling it.
Well, I think this, either way, Councilwoman Owens, or to sell them to employees or to just sell them on the market, this would be a step we need to do, and at least I'd want to do personally, so that we have nice looking, we're fixing up these homes that probably, some of them have probably been an eyesore for a couple years.
Whatever it
At
is,
least
we're
just
gonna have to
now.
move fast because
Right, and
it's
that-
gonna
You know
be
what I'm saying?
September.
Yeah,
I
right,
think
because
that,
we wanted to get these
They fix 'em up,
projects
period.
done
yeah,
before they get worse. And even if we do decide to sell to employees, my concern is they might not have the money to do these necessary repairs right away. And we'd rather just have them done beforehand, because it makes the whole street look nicer if the exterior is nice.
You have to move really fast because it's very difficult to get contractors right now. You have to wait at least 7 weeks to get a contractor.
So basically, we're just fixing up the houses, but we haven't decided what we're gonna do with it.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank
so-
you.
So you got a lot of work. You gotta do that memo by the next council meeting.
One more thing.
Yeah, so, the other, are you talking about the commercial?
No, splitting
With
the
the church
parsonage.
and the home.
Oh, yes. Another thing is that the church is connected to a residential property behind it that we did not realize was one parcel. It seems like the smart thing to do would be to partition that property and sell one as, the church, and then that house, whatever we decide to do with it. Did you have anything to add on?
Yeah, we would just have to direct the assessor to go through a split of the property. That way, when this house does get resold, it becomes taxable. Right now, it's not taxable because it's considered the parsonage of that church. However, we know the pastor does not live there. Some other individual is living in that house. So the idea was we split it before we sell it, sell the house independent of the church, and get it back on the tax
So the assessor has
rolls.
to do that, the county has to do that, the assessor with the
He does
county?
all the process. It goes to the county. They do the formal split, but our assessor would have to initiate it. So again, we're just looking for the council to direct administration to move ahead with that.
You want that motion now?
That'd be good.
I have one more question too. Didn't we discuss putting, the business up for sale on Kelly Road also? We own like a strip mall, half the strip mall on Kelly,
Yeah.
because that's something that, we might build a motion on tonight also.
Yeah, just go ahead and get that on the market because we're not going to do anything with it.
All right, you want to make that motion? Do you have the address and all?
yeah, what's,
I don't have the address with me, but,
Well, it's the only tax reversion property that we have, that's the business on
Commercial.
Kelly Road.
Yeah, commercial, yeah.
Yeah.
property.
I think it's 22-201, but.
okay, I'll motion then to split the tax reversion property on Kelly, that's a church and a home. However, we need to do that.
support.
Move and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
Yes. And then the second one?
And then, I'll motion to fix the exteriors of the rest of the properties that are tax reversion properties. Oh, to put a bid out to,
Put a bid out, excluding the commercial one,
oh, okay.
right?
I'll
Correct.
okay, so I will motion to put out a bid to fix the exteriors of all the homes except the commercial property from tax reversion.
Support?
Move and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido.
Yes.
And then the Kelly Road?
To put it for sale.
What was that one? I'm having.
The business,
Put the commercial up for sale.
Oh, okay. On Kelly?
the commercial business on Kelly Road.
Oh, okay. Well, motion to put the commercial business on Kelly up for sale. Is that what we said?
Should we also
That's it.
include, to direct administration to get a realtor to manage that?
Yeah, we don't have a realtor bid.
Yeah, and I'm sure we could find someone who will know how to sell that property, so.
Right.
All right,
Support.
move and support, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Great. Let's move on to payroll and bills.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $1,552,726.87.
Support.
Move and support. Any questions? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Let's move on to the second hearing of the public. Does anyone wish to be heard? Mr. Creech.
Madam Mayor and Council, I don't even know where to start this one. For the street contractor for Johnson, Joe, thank you for, exactly what you did as far as money and the rest of financials. We went through this last year. That batch plant in our DPW yard, has anybody looked at that driveway on DPW? It is literally destroyed. With those trucks coming in and out of there, we've got brand new cement we just put down in front of that maintenance. That's brand new. That hasn't been there that long. And for $3,000, I mean, my ciphering's not very good here, but I ciphered last year. If for 10 yards of concrete, at 30 gallons a yard, that's 300 gallons per truck. How many trucks? Help me out here, because I want to make sure this is metered this time. I want to make sure between the water and the sewer, my water bill is $90 a month. You mean to tell me it's going to take less than $1,000 to do this job, and they're going to be in there for a day and a half? And we're getting $3,200 or something out of that? People, I mean, I'm trying to, I've went through this, and we've went through this, and those trucks are doing nothing but tearing up our streets and our DPW yard. We don't need that batch plant there. I know you already agreed on it, but this is another thing. I'm going to monitor this one just to see how bad it turns out. Our driveway is literally destroyed at the DPW. Who's going to pay for it? We need to have it done again. Residents. Well, residents are, excuse me for saying this, we're spending money that we don't have, and we're spinning our wheels on a lot of these projects. We're not, this $3,000, and thank you, Mike, and thank you, Sarah, and you're talking about, $3,000 extra. It should be $3,000 rent and a water bill. I'm sorry to say, I get disturbed when I hear things exactly like this too, because I can't say there's no forethought, but by the time it comes to us, take a look at what they're destroying instead of what they're creating. And I said, I thank you because you're talking about hot cement so it gets around time, but look what it's done in the process. I'm sorry, as I said before too, some things I don't think people really constitute and really think about, because this is going to cost us money again. We went through that when we did Roseville. We went through that when we did Warren. And the same, when those trucks deliver that stuff, I sit there and watch them drive across our concrete. Those trucks are literally destroyed. We won't have.
You have 30 seconds.
Thank you. We won't have a DPW driveway by the time this one gets done. That's what I said before too. Remember, we were supposed to share this. It was supposed to be in Florence, is another one, a typical example, like I said before too, because of the water. They did it to us before. I'm not going to say, at least we're covering our water, but we haven't covered anything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Creech. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else? Anyone wish to be heard? Karen, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Karen Morajan, Eastpointe resident. I would like to share with you a statement from Tanya Hilgendorf. She is the president and CEO of the Huron Valley Humane Society, and this is in regards to the misinformation in regards to petting zoos and petting farms that people just really are not aware of. So even though the statement is in regards to petting zoos, it also includes the petting farms. Petting zoos are sold as learning experiences for children, but instead they're artificial environments designed simply for entertainment. Animals used in entertainment suffer from abuse and neglect, deprived of the care they require to meet their social, behavioral, and physical needs. They are kept in unnatural housing, not fed a proper diet, and suffer from fear, stress, and boredom during transport and living in captivity in overcrowded conditions. There are no standards nor regulatory oversight for petting zoos. Basic animal welfare standards are not followed related to veterinary care, diet, housing, and expression of natural behaviors. Animals are not properly protected from the elements, often forced to sit all day long in the sun during the hot summer months and may not receive adequate water. Frequently, petting zoos breed or buy baby animals, so there is always an ample supply of babies to entertain customers, but those young animals are usually taken from their mothers too soon, are not provided with proper care, handling, and socialization, and must endure the stress of being transported from place to place. Like the adult animals, they have no refuge from the stresses of constant human interaction. Petting zoos are also known to be a health risk to humans, especially children and pregnant women, being a major source of the spread of zoonotic diseases. Petting zoos are bad for animals and for people. Because of the lack of regulation, they require monitoring and enforcement of animal cruelty laws by local animal control or other enforcement agencies. I spoke last week about the animal neglect that occurred at Kennedy Park.
You have
And
30 seconds.
as Tom Petty sang, I will not back down. I will continue to fight for the animal neglect charges to be pressed against PartyAnimalsMichigan.com, and in regards to the October 13th event, where it has been mentioned there will be a farmer with animals, I respectfully request that that is not to happen. We have a humane pet ordinance that was passed in 2015 that contradicts that pet ordinance, so please do not allow that. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else wish to be heard? With that, the second hearing of the public is closed. Let's move on to mayor and council reports. We'll start with Mr. DeMonico.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, Mr. Creech, if the cement, if we're going to be ruining the cement with these trucks, we probably should reconsider the cement we have, because we have, if I'm not mistaken, trucks with dirt, sand, just as heavy as trucks going in and out of there all the time. So this will just be a couple more trucks. And then also, if I recall correctly from the FOIA request you put in, this project alone will already bring in 3 times as much money as we brought in, and I don't know how long those FOIA requests covered, but we didn't invoice for very much. So I think we're at least going in the right direction here with doing this, and I believe what we'll do in the future then is even put this in the bid specifications ahead of time. And yeah, I think we're going in the right direction on that. Second, it was good to see our Director of Public Safety candidates come out, Mr. Jarrell and Rohib. I know some of you in the audience got to meet them, so that was very nice. Look forward to hiring a new Director of Public Safety. And then my deepest condolences go out to Diajuan Williams, who was unfortunately a 15-year-old that was a victim of a tragic shooting in Eastpointe. I'm sure that you all heard about. Deepest condolences to the family, and everyone enjoy your Labor Day coming up. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Mrs. Owens.
Yes, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I was impressed that you guys want to be so much a part of your community. I really was impressed by Mr. Jeffrey with he came with a resume, suit, and everything. I was so impressed because it shows me that it's more to you than just being on a commission. It's about your community. Not saying everybody else is not as important, but I'm always impressed with a person that does above and beyond to get where they need to be to make a difference. Also, I'm going to tag you on the 15-year-old that passed away. My condolences to the family, to the residents, because when something happens to a young person, it affects everyone in the community. So let's keep them in our prayers. And also, I'm done for today.
Thank you. This is Lucido.
First, I would like to congratulate everyone who is going to be on the Parks Commission. I'm very excited about getting going on it, and I can't wait to get to know everyone better. I think it's going to be a really great commission. I'm hoping that we can get a lot accomplished, and so I'm excited to hear everyone's ideas. Also, I would also like to share my condolences with the family of the victim of the tragic accident that happened over the weekend. And that is all I have this evening.
Mr. Kleinfeld.
My comments would just mirror some of what everyone said here tonight. Thank you all for coming out who are going to be joining the commission and the couple members who aren't here. We appreciate that you volunteering your time. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I'm very excited for the Parks Commission. I'm really pleased to see so many people that came out for the audience tonight. Mr. Ziering, this is the first time I've ever seen anybody come out with a resume, and it's very impressive. So thank you very much. And I'm equally impressed with the people that came forward. I'm very excited about Mrs. Lucido being on this because she has children. She lives near a park, and she understands what's going on. But equally, the other people that came forward have been involved with either education or with recreation for a long period of time. So the needs are there. The lady that came out and was talking about the needs on the west side of the city, I echo that tremendously. I think our southwest corner needs some assistance over there with recreation and park equipment. So I'm very excited that you came forward and that you are on the committee because your voice needs to be heard. Mr. Creech, the ox roast and any other thing that goes on in the city needs volunteers. We need volunteers. You can't do it without anything. When the Lions Club put those on, they had a number of volunteers besides a large club membership. And each of the service organizations in the city have dwindled down because nobody wants to volunteer. So anytime you'd like to go to a Lions meeting, I'd be happy to take you, and maybe you can talk them into doing the ox roast. In the meantime, they have the Harvest Festival, and I would sign you up for a volunteer anytime you want because the Lions have to really work hard. And we need volunteers in the early morning. We need volunteers to help us back up. The shooting incidents with the big party was a tragedy beyond belief. When a 15-year-old is in the wrong place at the wrong time, things like that happen. But equally, to have gunshot wounds to the other two that were present is also not a good thing to happen at all. It scares the city, and rightfully so. This meeting, tonight, all over Facebook this week, there has been word that there is a dog that's tethered. And people are upset because the city is doing nothing about the dog that's tethered. We don't know the address of the dog that's tethered. It's on Agnes somewhere, and that's all we get. We don't get an address. So if anybody is out there tonight and you know where there is a dog that's tethered on Agnes, please call the city hall or the police department, better yet, and tell them where that dog is. We do have a tethering ordinance, and we can follow up on it, but we need to know where the dog is. I think we're moving forward with tax reversions. I'm excited that the two of you went out with administration. I think it's going to be a positive thing for the community. One more thing, the pool. The pool was falling apart. I can't remember the term for the the bottom of it, but it was cracked below that. Mr. Altimus can remember the term, and the chlorinator was in a very bad shape, and we had estimates come in about how much it would cost us to repair that pool, and it was about 1.2 million, as I remember.
It was close to almost $2 million.
So it was either repair it or take it out and put in a brand new one, and that was an impossible situation in 2008 and 9. We'd all love to have another pool, but that is something that maybe you can plan when you're on that committee. I guess, I would like to say, we had the high school reunion last week for alumni that graduated anywhere from 1945 to 1965. And even though it was raining out, and even though all these people, many of whom are, I think one was in his 90s, had to walk from the parking lot to the pavilion, we still had about 50 or 60 people that came from as far away as California, from Ohio, from Tennessee, and they wanted to come back and find out what was going on with their high school. So many of these were athletes that had been on various teams. The 53 football team that won the Eastern Michigan League title is always a big thing for talking. And the 1957 championship football team, everybody remembers them because they were, all their names and pictures were all over O'Hara's for so long. So lots of memories there, lots of people that came forward, and they'll be back again next year. They always have their reunion the day before the Dream Cruise, because so many of them ended up being involved with automotive, and they all come back for that. So my challenge is to the Parks Commission, please figure out a way that seniors can get to the pavilion without walking 1/8 of a mile from the handicap spot to the pavilion. And that's all I have. I will get off of my little soapbox and ask for an adjournment, because we are done for tonight.
So moved.
Support.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. Long day. Man, I'll tell you that.